How, with wise speech, less is more, by Christian Hageseth III, MD, co-founder of the Wise Speech Foundation. As read by Abraham Kaboomski. It could have been a scene from a black and white movie. One where a guy in a white coat walks alone down the nearly empty halls of a mental hospital for the criminally insane. It's the middle of the night, and the halls are dark, except for little clusters of orange points of light huddled in groups of 3 or 4 along the dirty hallways. It was the mid-70s, a time when patients and staff still had the freedom of unrestricted cigarette access. Patients said the smoking diminished the side effects of the drugs they were forced to take. Staff said they were necessary for reducing stress, their stress. I'm the guy wearing the white coat. I'm doing my residency in psychiatry at a sister mental hospital in Camarillo, California. But this night, I have been loaned to the scariest mental hospital in the California mental health system, Atascadero, State Hospital for the Criminally Insane. The official description provided by the state of California describes Atascadero this way. The Department of State Hospitals Atascadero is a secure forensic hospital located on the central coast of California in San Luis Obispo County. It opened in 1954 and is a psychiatric hospital constructed within a secure perimeter. The majority of the all-male patient population is remanded for treatment by county superior courts or by the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, CDCR. The hospital does not accept voluntary admissions. I was in my late 20s that night. Just 2 years earlier, I was the squadron flight surgeon with a Marine Corps A6A squadron flying out of Da Nang, South Vietnam. I was scared when I was there, but this night, walking down these dark halls with the criminally insane as my only company, I was more scared. A lot more. I entered the dimly lit nurses' station where I was greeted by Angela Bonet, RN. African American, Angela was diminutive in size, but overflowing with a no-nonsense attitude. She saw herself as a mediator between persecuted patients and an impersonal bureaucracy. So, you're the resident doctor for Camarillo? I hope you're not going to be one of them shoot 'em up with Thorazine and strap 'em to the bed kind of shrinks. She stubbed out her cigarette on the half-filled ashtray on her desk. I was immediately impressed with this 100-pound shrike of a woman. Somehow, she failed to get the lesson that because she was black, she needed to be subservient. If I ever need an ally with an attitude, she would be on my shortlist. I leaned back on the counter, took a calming breath, and adopted my best Marcus Welby, MD persona. Tell me about the patient. As far as I could tell, things are quiet here at the moment. Just a lot of people quietly standing in the halls and smoking. That wasn't the case an hour ago. Of course, in the time it took you to get here, the whole unit could have gone up in flames. The sour look on her face expressed disapproval. Sorry about that, but security told me to wait where I was, and someone would come and get me. Angela looked over my shoulder. Where's your security? He never showed. Yeah, I would expect as much. Now, I decided that I should be the one to look irritated. So, are you going to tell me about the patient? I winked so she could see I wasn't truly upset. She nodded and smiled in response. Bradley Berg has been here a couple years. He's been charged with attempted murder but was found NGI, not guilty by reason of insanity. What did he do? Well, Bradley was diagnosed with schizophrenia in his early 20s. Never really that violent, but one day a couple years ago, a cop was called when Bradley was peeing in a grave at a cemetery. The problem was the coffin had just been lowered into the ground and there were 30 family members and friends in attendance who strongly disapproved. I squinched my face, but still the words leaked out. Pissed off, were they? Angela smiled. You got that right. She stood up. Then the cop did the cop thing, screamed at Bradley and ran at him with gun drawn and pepper spray at the ready. Bradley responded by growling like a timber wolf and running back at the cop and knocking him off his feet. A scuffle ensued and the cop's gun went off. Nobody knew which one had the gun at the time. The bullet missed everyone, fortunately. But several people joined in and forced Bradley to the ground. And they called that attempted murder? Yep, he's been there ever since. But every once in a while, he loses it and attacks a staff member. That's what he did tonight. Anybody get hurt? No, but if you noticed, none of the staff are in the halls. Where is he? And what is he doing now? He is in his room, couched under his bed and growling like a wolf. When nobody starts into his room, when anyone comes in, he roars. Scares the piss out of everybody. I began to feel less frightened. Following what I'd been learning in my recent study of Buddhism, I realized Bradley was frightened and he did what so many people do. He got angry and defensive when he felt he was in danger. Interestingly, I had been just finding that Buddhism was often superior to psychiatry when it came to understanding confused and frightened people. Just a month earlier, I had attended a week-long silent meditation retreat with Jack Cornfield. The silence afforded me the opportunity to practice a skill I had learned in Lutheran Sunday school, the skill of memorization. Since it was still relatively quiet in the halls, I leaned back and let some of Jack's words come back to me. This one stood out from the others. May I be a guard for those who need protection, a guide for those on the path, a boat, a raft, a bridge for those to cross the flood. May I be a lamp of darkness, a resting place for the weary, and a healing medicine for all who are sick. For as long as earth and sky endure, may I assist until all living beings are awakened. Jack Cornfield. A lamp in the darkness, illuminating the path through difficult times. Angela, I think I'm ready to meet Bradley. She nodded and led me from the nurse's station down the hall to a locked door. Okay, doctor. You're here. Now what? Just unlock the door. What or who do you want for backup? I see the guard who was supposed to have accompanied you just arrived. I responded, send the guard to the nurse's station. I think you'll be all the backup I'll need. She scrutinized my face. There's something different about you, doctor. What's your last name? Hageseth. Christian Hageseth. That's an odd last name. Where do your people come from? Norway, by the way of North Dakota. There's something different about you. Seeming to have finished her thought, Angela shooed the guard away and sat down in the doorway. Go ahead, doctor. I'll just watch for now. Stepping by Angela, I was met by a cacophonous roar from under the bed. I couldn't make out the words, but the content of his roar was clear. Go away, or I'll kill you. I casually walked over to the foot of the bed, turned around, and leaned my back against the wall, and then slowly slid down the wall until I was sitting on the floor. Next, I stretched my legs out and turned to face Bradley. He was roaring less, now more growling and shaking the mattress above him. I waited, looked in his direction, but was careful not to stare. A few minutes passed until quiet was restored. I was careful in choosing what to say. I would issue no orders or ask any probing questions. It's really dark in here. No response. Takes a while for my eyes to adjust. No response. I was just remembering how, when I was a little boy, I used blocks to form a little wall under my bed. I could look out, but other people had a hard time seeing me. I heard a quiet, Then I purposely took a couple minutes more in silence. I began to notice sounds coming from the doorway as if I could feel more eyes looking in, but I couldn't make out any speech, just the sound of bodies getting comfortable while sitting down on the floor. Looks like we're gathering an audience, I said. Bradley's first words, I don't like people looking at me. I couldn't think of a good answer, so I just turned to face him more directly. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I saw an overweight, middle-aged man whose hands were trembling, the so-called pill-rolling Parkinson's tremor people get when they take large doses of Haldol. Does that tremor bother you? No, you get used to it after a while. There's medicine I can give you that might help. No, it's okay. I purposely let a couple more minutes of silence tick by. Bradley broke the silence. I'm thirsty. Is there a way I could get a drink? This Haldol makes my mouth dry. What would you like? Water or Coke? I want a Dr. Pepper. I called to Angela. Do you have any Dr. Pepper? Not here, but the nurse's lounge, we have a machine that has some. I can get a bottle. I looked again at Bradley, who now looked not only calmer, but younger. Sounds good to me. Sound good to you? Yeah. Go ahead, Angela. 2 Dr. Peppers. I'll buy. For the next 5 minutes, Bradley and I chit-chatted. Nothing heavy, just hanging out. When Angela arrived with the pop, I said, What do you say, Bradley? How about I tell everybody the show is over and it's time for everyone to get some sleep? Yeah, I don't like crowds. Angela, you are the man. It's time to hit the sack. But Bradley and I'll take our time here drinking out our Dr. Pepper. That event took place 47 years ago. I was only at Atascadero 2 nights. Never heard about Bradley again. But today, with political conflict reaching such a pitch that more than 80% of our country's population fear we might be in for a civil war, maybe we all need to sit down beside someone we fear, drink a Dr. Pepper, and let things settle a while. This has been an article written with first-hand personal experience by Dr. Christian Hageseth III. As he retired, he's become a co-founder. This guy right here, of the Wise Speech Foundation. Identifying, we need to assemble a multitude of wise voices to speak out and peacefully initiate action to diminish the expressions of hatred and hostility, now threatening to destroy our democracy. I was curious myself, what exactly was wise speech? And I found that there are many individuals who are sharing just that which it is, stemming from the Buddhist awareness. Right speech, avoiding slander, cultivating harmony, avoiding harsh language, practicing kind language, avoiding idle chatter, speaking only when necessary. I noticed that Jack Kornfield just so happened, out of 500 million results, articles that Google has indexed on the term wise speech, where people are asking, how can I be wise in talking? What is the right speech? On the B-fold path, what is right speech? What are 4 elements of right speech? I'm sure people are asking a lot more things like, what is NVC? That's something I started to look up after I read some of these articles, seeing that Jack Kornfield had written articles on wide speech, and seeing that all these doctors who have experienced healing patients mentally over decades of time, they are sharing insights on NVC. What is NVC? Well, I'm so glad you asked, because it certainly is not what Google just said. So what is non-violent communication? Obviously, that's what NVC is, not some corporate jargon. Non-violent communication is an approach to communication based on principles of non-violence. It is a technique. It is not a technique to end disagreements, but rather a method designed to increase empathy and improve the quality of life of those who utilize the method and people around them. Aha! Now it all makes sense. Marshall Rosenberg, who are you? We gotta just go down the rabbit hole as far as we can. Oh, darn it, Ski, Marshall Rosenberg. May we dedicate this blog to your memory. As the founders of the Wise Speech Foundation, we'd like to thank you, Marshall Rosenberg, for pioneering nonviolent communications. We'll learn more about that soon. You can find Wise Speech at wisespeech.org. We need more contributors. Please help us. We're working around the clock to spread nonviolent communication by way of Wise Speech. Join the movement. Support us today. The Wise Speech Foundation is an accredited 501c3 established in Colorado, and we're holding weekly events locally and live as we pioneer the future of peace and civil liberties, holding strong during challenging times, remaining patient and remaining calm. We stand here together peacefully. Please join us today. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Let us know what your New Year's resolution is. And please consider, for your New Year's resolution, finding ways to spread nonviolent communication with Wise Speech. Together, we can combat hatred and hostility and bring about the peace and tranquility to pursue happiness in the democracy that our forefathers built for us.
Kaboomski.